So welcome, our brilliant and beloved colleague, Rabia. I so appreciate your consistent visionary leadership and solidarity. And as always at SETC, we begin all things by giving thanks to our creator, our sustainer. We give thanks to all the original stewards of the various lands we're on. We give thanks to all our ancestors, all those who toiled without compassion or compensation. We give thanks to all our elders and community stalwarts whose shoulders we stand on as we build, share, and learn together for our collective liberation and sovereignty. So, Rabia, can you please introduce yourself to our listeners and viewers and share a bit about your remarkable work?
So my name is Rabia Khedr. Assalamu alaikum. Hello, peace. I'm sitting on the traditional territories of the Mississaugas of the New Credit, and I am committed to truth, reconciliation, social and disability justice for everyone on Turtle Island and all Indigenous people around the world. I am pleased to be talking to you. Thank you for reaching out and feeling that I was worthy of this conversation and have something to add to the discourse that you are creating. Um, I have an introductory line that I often use to give people a snapshot of who I am, and that is, my name is Rabia Khedr. I'm a hyphen with many hijabs. I am a Muslim, Punjabi, Pakistani, Canadian woman, wife, mother, activist, advocate, daughter of aging parents, sisters to siblings with disabilities, including intellectual disability, mother of 4 young adults, of mixed heritage because my husband is of Egyptian origin. I yada 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 happen to be a person with a disability, along with a whole bunch of other stuff in between, and that means that I am blind. And I do see things differently. I do things differently. I put my passion into action. I don't waste time seeing, as I like to say. I spend time doing a lot. And my purpose and passion is advancing human rights, women's rights, combating Islamophobia, and of course, all of that wrapped up into disability justice and disability rights for people with disabilities from that intersectionality lens, addressing ableism, racism, and all kinds of isms and phobias.
That's absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much for that comprehensive background and speaks to your body of work and your just sheer remarkable leadership. Once again, like it's a perfect segue to my next question, but you're brilliant and inspire me daily in terms of your work. My second question is what's inspiring you right now? What has you curious or what's keeping you up at nights?
Do you really want to know? What's keeping me up at night these days is how cruel humanity has become, how unjust humanity has become, how we do not wake up and smell the coffee. Like, I wish everybody could have an experience of being blind because they might have a new perspective on mercy and humanity and compassion and caring for each other. Um, what really disturbs me is how can we cause and perpetuate and inflict disability on men, women, and children today through war, through climate crises, through other forms of man-made disasters. And I emphasize man because often mothers, we are more nurturing and compassionate and do not want to see human beings slaughtered and diced and sliced and disabled. If disability happens naturally by birth, by health and accident or injury, that's okay because that's meant to be. And we figure out and how to navigate with it in this world. And it's a duty upon the world, upon society, to make sure that we can fully function by eradicating the ableist barriers that we have created. But when man chooses to inflict harm on humanity that causes disablement, that disturbs me deeply today. and disturbs me in societies that I feel should be the ones saying enough is enough. We're going to put an end to the violence, to the oppression, to the occupation, to war, to gun violence. And all wrapped up into that is my work around addressing poverty for disabled people, for example, in Canada. In a country of plenty, nobody should be forced to raise money online, to wait for handouts at a street corner or at a shop, or be, dependent on the generosity of others through food banks and such services. That we are a country of plenty that should be able to give adequate financial security to our society's most vulnerable members. And I always remember that I am that 1 degree away from all of that. And the reason I say that is I was born in a little village in Pakistan. And if I remained in that village, I would have grown up with no access to education, hence no access to family, career, or community beyond washing somebody's dishes for my next piece of roti or piece of bread. I was blessed to end up in this country. My father was empowered to travel and found his way to Canada and brought my mother and I when I was 4 years old. Life wasn't perfect. It was full of barriers and trials, but somehow I made it through with an undergraduate university degree and then went on to do a master's degree after having 4 children, and carved out a career where I say I am a systems disruptor today and a social entrepreneur, responding to the needs of people just like me because I walked that path. I lived that journey. I faced exclusion and ableism within the communities that I'm connected to, within the Muslim community, within the broader South Asian, Indo-Pakistani community, within the dominant culture of Canada combating white privilege. I faced all of that as a sister advocating for the rights of my brothers with intellectual disabilities on behalf of my parents. And that journey took me to a place where I'm like, something needs to be done. And that's what I commit to doing, is addressing the barriers that people have faced and creating solutions to ensure that tomorrow is better for them.
It's absolutely beautiful. Thank you
So
so
that's
much.
a long-winded answer. I don't know if you were looking for that, but
No, that was
there you go.
definitely not long-winded. It was comprehensive. It was clear, and I think it was concise. So by no means, I just give thanks for all the actual insights you provide and the deep introspection and wisdom you bring to this work, as always. So once again, I give thanks. My next question is, what challenges and barriers do you face in your work, and what are some of the approaches you and your colleagues are taking to overcome some of these challenges and barriers?
There's just so many resources and so much time in the day to do this work. It's constant competition. My biggest barrier is access to funding. So in the disability poverty space, philanthropy has stepped up and been quite generous. I'm challenged often finding people with disabilities with the skill sets that we need so that they can take on paid roles to do the work that we're doing. And that is because, systemically they haven't had the opportunities to hone skills to do this kind of work through their educational and employment lives as adults to be able to seek, so having people with disabilities that we can lift up to lead is a barrier these days. We need to invest in building up people's social capital to fully participate and present their voice and viewpoints themselves as deaf people, as blind people, as people in wheelchairs, as people with intellectual disabilities, and particularly those that are racialized within our context. The other thing that, again, is a challenge for me constantly is the work that I'm doing within the Muslim community through DEEN support services, and constantly having to compete for funds raised and prove to people that this is indeed a need, that government doesn't fund everything for disabled people, that disabled people, genuinely do not have all the supports they need to thrive or even survive with dignity, and that we have a duty to address that. So I'm constantly having to compete with, masjid, mosque, Islamic center construction projects and Islamic school projects, um, natural and man-made disasters globally, because our philanthropy, our individual giving, uh, as a mindset within the community where we raise funds, which is predominantly the Muslim community, often don't recognize the needs here and feel more compassion toward needs, quote unquote, back home, because they see those as more severe. Here, the needs are invisible. And if people aren't impacted by somebody with a disability in their lives, they really cannot relate to the need, don't recognize the need, and just presume that government takes care of it all.
Yeah, that is a challenge. But once again, I think that the disruptive nature of your work and so many other community stalwarts creates that dynamic where we're moving from strength to strength and we can actually mitigate some of the challenges. So once again, I just really appreciate your candor and your transparency around this. So my next question is, do you have a set of key priorities right now in your work?
Well, short-term key priority right now is to see this federal government budget the Canada Disability Benefit next week as an adequate amount, and then keep watching to make sure that the regulations are created with genuine input from a lived experience of disabled people, and not just partisanship and political sort of viewpoints, and not just smoke and mirrors and fluff on top of nothingness, that it really alleviates poverty for disabled people in this country. My other big thing is, long term, is to establish residential homes for people with disabilities, so kind of disrupt and shift the system of care for people when their families cannot care for them anymore. So ensuring that disabled people have a choice in how they live and with whom they live and how they're supported. Whereas right now, it's, even though we say that we have deinstitutionalized, we have created micro institutions because of the way funding flows to organizations and agencies that are deeply rooted in the dominant culture. So, culturally and spiritually responsive residential supports is my biggest dream.
That's absolutely incredible. And as I was mentioning before, we have a unique opportunity in terms of some of the work happening around the social finance fund and some of the work happening as it relates to Islamic finance in Canada. And I
I'm
really,
very interested in that. Yes.
yeah, I'm excited to be able to, include you in that table. And I think that your work at DEEN Supportive Services also speaks to the importance of the need for culturally appropriate and culturally specific um, supports for the diverse groups and vulnerable, distinct groups, but most importantly, to empower folks. So once again, I just really appreciate all that you're doing at Disability Without Poverty, but also DEEN Support Services and sharing your wisdom with us.
The unique thing that I'm trying to do through DEEN Support Services is also to feature that as a Muslim organization rooted on, based on Islamic values, that we can serve and support and hire and engage people of faith and non-faith affiliations. That they people that the service model we have is based on human rights and will support anybody and everybody, inclusively Muslim. So that's something I often have to educate people on.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. Thank you. So my second last question, what is your ultimate goal and what does success look like and feel like to you and your colleagues?
That's a toughie because, the work that I'm in, it's never ending work. But for me, success would be when we do have homes established and people have the supports that they need to thrive. So when inclusion and belonging become a real feeling for people, not just a philosophical statement.
Indeed, 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 indeed. So my last question, do you have any closing thoughts or calls to action for our listeners and our viewers?
Disabled people have been a part of every society, are around us, and we often don't recognize it. Attitudes are the biggest barrier. We need to keep on reconciling attitudes with our humanity and compassion and mercy. And if we look at, whatever spiritual traditions we follow, whatever humanitarian approaches we take, it's really about inclusion and everybody belonging. Because for me, in my, principle belief of creation, we are all created equal with and without disabilities. And we have the right to equally participate in our families, community, and society. Nothing about us without us is my call to action.
Ashe, Ashe. Thank you so much for your consistent leadership and solidarity and words of wisdom and the deep, deep authenticity you consistently bring to this work. I'm always inspired by leaders that lead from a place of humility, but also a place of remarkable strength and diligence. And you've consistently spoken truth to power, and you've consistently developed policies that impact more than just yourself. And I just give thanks for all that you do for so many. So once again,
And that's because I'm grateful for what I have, Victor. I view my cup as half full, not half empty ever. And I feel that it's my duty to change the world to the best of my abilities. That's my duty and my purpose, and genuinely my passion. And I've been blessed to have people around me, my husband, my family, the community, mentors, allies, and supporters who have empowered me to keep doing what I'm doing. And it's necessary, because if I don't do it, who will?
indeed, indeed, I couldn't agree more. I know that one of our elders, Angela Davis, says you have to act as if it were possible to radically transform the world, and you have to do it all the time. So
Yeah.
when I hear those words coming from you, I couldn't agree more with those sentiments and once again, actionable insights. And as always at SETC, we close the way we began this conversation, this interview, by giving thanks and praise to our sustainer, to our creator. We give thanks to all the original stewards of the various lands we're on. We give thanks to all our ancestors, all those who toiled without compassion or compensation. We give thanks to all our elders and community stalwarts whose shoulders we stand on as we build, share, and learn together for our collective liberation and sovereignty. Thank you so much, Rabia, for all that you do for so many. We appreciate you.
Thank you.